Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Kreft's Couch Pod with your host, Dr. Janine Kreft. And today I want to talk about lessons in entrepreneurship. Why? Because that is up in my world and I have a lot to say about it. And wow, I am just getting that it has been such a facilitation in my mental wellness journey. You know, I used to think I had things like that people-pleasing-ish down, and wow, okay, no, it still showed up online, in social, how engaged with clients. Okay, wow. So I want to talk a little bit about that and just generally how we water ourselves down, self-censor, all that business. So we'll see where we go today. A few housekeeping things first. The Outcreate the Noise Masterclass is coming up July 13th to the 15th. It's 3 days. It's an amazing price, $111 for 3 days. Wow, this energy is going to be potent because I'm just getting that the collective is really doing a thing right now, right? They're going into a lot of noise, a lot of fight, and a lot of fighting this reality, fighting these systems. Now, we're aware these systems really don't work for us. They're not healthy. And so what else could we choose? What would create the greatest with our attention? Is it fighting the old or fighting for a new possibility? Putting our attention towards creating new realities, new systems that are really for the people. And so that's kind of the vibe of that class, because what I'm getting is it's really easy to just fall into what the collective is choosing or what the most dominant thing is, the dominant narrative. It's really easy to fall into that and almost get swept away within the energy of it. And I'm just wondering what else is possible with that. Could we create something different? And could you continue to have ease in your life despite what everyone else is saying? So, as I mentioned before, that was really birthed out of the whole house buying process for me. That was on episode 2, so definitely check that out if you want to kind of hear more about that. So that's coming up, and then also I've opened up applications for energy flows for CEOs for the fall cohort. This is my intensive 3-month journey of really getting into the energetics of who you are as an entrepreneur. So really returning back to you and what magic you can create. This is not some other, strategy program. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about why it's not, because what creates something different is you being you. Your unique energetic signature blueprint, and therefore you cannot do it the way anyone else is doing it. You have to create something different in order for it to work. And so it's like, what is that? What do I know? What am I aware of? What could I create here? And that's a muscle to strengthen, to tune back into you, rather than listen to everything outside of you and, learn all the right things to do to prove that you're the one to buy from. No, that's not the energy we're going for. We're going for you being you, and by doing that, you can create ease and magnetize an abundant business to you. So that's the vibe of that. We're going to start early September, so I definitely apply now if it pings you. All right, so let's get into the episode, Lessons of Being an Entrepreneur. So my journey with social media started probably around, 2018, and just really creating for an outlet. I just, as I had mentioned before in previous episodes, I was really not loving my gig, my job, my 9-to-5 job, and I just needed somewhere to create. And initially when I started on Instagram, it was the era of curated photos. Now, although I knew what a good photo looked like, I could not create it at the time. I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the information, I didn't have the experience. So I was just looking at, well, what could I create here with ease? Is it just me photographing my dog or the couch or something, And really had to let go of the need to make it perfect in order to start creating. I mean, that's just been the journey all along. And to me, starting out with written content felt safer to expose myself that way. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and when they're looking at doing video content, it feels really daunting. And I get it, right? To expose yourself in that manner and to have that many eyeballs on you can feel really intense, especially on the nervous system. And so I kind of naturally did this where I just looked at, okay, this is what I want to create. I want to say something. I want to create this page. I don't even know for why at this point. I just need to create. And what's going to be easier? How can I just get this out with total ease? So it's going to start with written content. And that's how I started. And I still apply those same point of view or knowledge to even how I started this podcast, which was, I knew I wanted to do it for a long time. I know what quote unquote good podcasts sound like. Maybe have all the fancy intros and outros and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, what's ease here? What's going to be ease for me to just get this out? Because doing it and getting it out is more meaningful to me at this stage than all the bells and whistles, right? Now, as you grow in the business, right, it's very easy to start polishing things up, tightening things, adding more of that stuff. And in the beginning, with anything that you're starting, would you be willing to just do it the simplest way possible, right? Because getting it out is going to get you more information in the doing than waiting to try to research all the ways of how to do it. So it's really being willing to be what you're resisting. And so for me, it's often been, the perfectionistic stuff or having it need to come out a certain way. And if we go into that, then we stop ourselves, right? We stop ourselves from creating. And the reality is perfection isn't even real. So it's like, for what purpose do we even function from that, right? It's like, if you really just look at that energy, really though, why do we choose it? Because if it's not real and it's not creating greater, then what else could I choose? And so with Instagram, it just kind of grew slowly. It's like more writing, and then I would say kind of infographics became popular. And again, I always looked at like, what is the simplest way I can do this? What's a one color I could choose and just make it feel like brandy before I had someone help me brand. I just was always looking at what is ease here, because ultimately, as an entrepreneur, you have a ton of decisions to make at any given time. And it is so easy to go into this paralyzation, freeze mode when you're aware of so many possibilities, right? What branding colors do you want to choose? What content, and what platform do you want to be on? What type of content? All the things that can just totally stop you. And so what I've really gotten, one of the major lessons for me has been letting go of the perfectionism and the need to do it right. Really, because it does come down to so much judgment here. Whenever we're asking the how do I do something? We're trying to get it right. We're going into, I can't get it wrong. And so when we resist being wrong, then we cannot have the reality we're desiring, right? If I had resisted being wrong, earlier on in the social media days, 2018, I don't know if I would have ever started, right? I had to be willing to be wrong, be messy, do it poorly, not perfect. I had to be willing to be that energy in order to produce things. So as I got more comfortable, I would say, posting infographic and written content, then it was around, I would say, January 2020 when I started TikTok, and I was like, what is this? Oh, okay, short form videos. This is fun. That's easy. I, enjoyed speaking. I did a lot of teaching in my psychology days, I guess, in groups you could say. And so I was like, oh, and I like succinct. This is just brief and to the point. This is great. This is for me. And I wonder if I would have been ready to just jump in without any previous social media experience, in the sense of how comfortable I was being willing to expose me, right? Be vulnerable, have eyes on you, have people looking at what you're doing, have family look at you, friends, all those things, right? And so it's like I had the first step of, posting what I felt comfortable with, but it was still outside my comfort zone, right? So it's like all of this is really just continuing to lean into edges of your comfort zone where, it's like this makes me a little uncomfortable, but I can still choose it, right? And so it's like whatever we're needing to tell ourselves to create more ease with that. And so for me, it was kind of this stepwise progression of, okay, the infographic, written content first. Now I'm comfortable doing these like short form videos. I still at that time wasn't doing lives and was not doing any long format content. I mean, even in my courses that I was creating at the time, I had pre-written everything I was going to say, and I used a teleprompter in there. And, I had then to re-record it a million times because if I didn't say it just right, and oh my God. And so I really got that, wow, I have changed how I do content in general now, how much I've evolved, because now when I create course content, it is me kind of tuning into the energy of the topic and then opening my mouth, which is quite different than pre-deciding everything I'm going to say, which just started to feel very contracting. Now that's like kind of what I was taught, in school. It's like, plan out your whole thing, make sure you hit each bullet point, and this is the right way to do it, and don't just talk and it's like, wow, when you can start to let go of all the rules that have been kind of imposed upon us or that you've bought into, it just frees you up. It frees you up for something else that's possible. And something I talk a lot about is it's easier on your body, because every time we go into judgment, we activate our nervous system. And we already got enough stuff activating it. So what would it take to let that piece go, to let go of the rules and just be willing to show up in a way that works for you? And so I'm just starting to get that more and more and more. So it evolved from, okay, I'm comfortable now doing short form videos. What's the next thing? Well, the next thing was doing some lives. And same thing. It was like, well, let me pre-plan and make sure I have, the content that I want to talk about. It has to be like a teaching style. I was still going into some of that versus being willing to kind of show up and speak to the energy. And so as I was doing more lives, I would say then the next progression just became more of this. I would say like kind of where I'm at now, as I've done kind of more regular lives. And now my next edge was choosing the podcast, because again, I was looking at, well, okay, what am I avoiding here? And it was doing long format content and really just saying what I want to say. And so that's one of the huge lessons that I've taken away from this journey, is how much I realized I was self-censoring, whether it be around friends or not speaking up for my needs or boundaries or what worked for me, all that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, okay, that is showing up just here on social too. So what else is possible? What's it going to take for me to really just be me? Because that is truly what creates something interesting, is when people are just being them. And it's not prove it energy. It's not needing to, outperform somebody else. It's not competition. It's none of that, because competition doesn't even exist. It's not real. We're all on different paths. And so you literally cannot compare your timeline to somebody else's. And so I've been just really looking at, okay, well, would I be willing to just detach? Just detach. Detach from the outcome, detach from the timeline, detach from whatever I've decided is right, and willing to surrender, which I get is really helpful in our personal lives too. Just being able to relax and allow things to come with ease. because I get that we are just kind of transitioning away as we become more conscious, more aware, playing with more energy, that, wow, we could really just create a reality of ease, or allow ourselves to relax and take inspired, excited action, rather than this idea of force or more work creates more results, or rules of scheduling, or rules of creating posts in a certain way. And that all just wasn't working for me. And, over the past year and a half, now that I've been an entrepreneur, I've been in containers pretty much the entire time. And I find so much value in them. If you have not joined a container or you're considering it, I would just look at what is the energy in it that it will create for you. Because I can tell you, it just creates a lot of speed and ease. And I just don't want to sit in my drama too long. I just don't want to sit there because it's not creating what I want. And so it's like, if I could kind of facilitate myself a little further along by being in this container, well, then I'm going to choose it. And of course, those end up being edges as well, right? Of like picking something financially that maybe is outside your comfort zone as well. But what I was really getting is I started off in, kind of the learning containers first. Like, teach me how to do this, because it's just so easy to go into the overwhelm with entrepreneurship, right? With all the decisions and going into the freeze mode. And so it helped me to be in a container where someone else could show me how to do a couple things versus me trying to Google everything, right? It's like you can figure out everything online, and wow, it's just a lot. And so that really helped with the kind of the first stages of just, wow, let me start to trust that I really can do this. I can stand on my own feet, and I can do this with the support of figuring out the how. And then once I had some kind of basics down, I was more into, support classes, things where it was about the energy and really undefined and abstract. And I really enjoy that. That's my vibe. And yet I went to a place where, when I look back on it now, on the energy, I just started to contract. Something shifted where I decided that it was starting to be too easy. Things were coming too easy. I was able to work less, and money was coming in higher, points that I'd never even seen before in my reality. And something in me was like, oh wow, this is, I guess you could say, maybe an upper limit at that point, is like one way to describe it, where I went into some resistance about it. And I was like, wait, well, I need to hold on to this or sustain it or do it right. So some of that old stuff came back, where I was still going into well, I got to get this right. I got to do business right. And I've always been one to really kind of mimic others or try things on for size, what other people are doing. And I figured, well, okay, I see this person having all this success. So clearly they know the right answer. They have the right answer. And that's what I need to figure out how to create my business. And I did that for a couple months. I did it for a while and invested quite a bit of money in a program. And I am truly grateful because it gave me so much awareness of what didn't work for me. Now, absolutely no hate to this program or whatnot, because they have a really great thing in there, a lot of amazing content, and they're teaching really great stuff. And halfway in, I was like, wow, oh, okay, this is not who I be, because it was more focused on kind of what are the right strategies and formulas and almost recipes, so to speak, to create the what is everyone talking about, to get the more likes, to get the viral videos, to have the, multi-six-figure months or whatever. And so I was really like, okay, I went back to how, show me how. I need to know how. And, in business, it's really interesting because yes, there is some, putting some systems in place, some automation, or how, like, why you post every day on social media, right? So there's like strategy to that. But really, I want to say like undefined strategy in the sense of like you could post however you want to post, right? I see people post a couple times a week. I see people post multiple times a day, and all forms of success, right? And so it's kind of like however you define that. So I was just starting to get like, wow, going through it and choosing a program with really the idea of showing me how to recreate it totally contracted my creativity, it contracted my flow. And I would say I knew this based on how I felt after group calls. And how I felt was stressed, kind of almost panicked, and going into wrongness of me. Now, again, this program wasn't, it wasn't like wrong in any way, or what they were teaching it wasn't not good, so to speak. It was more that the way that they were functioning from in this reality and how to do business, which is one way, just didn't work for me. And so anything that is not true for you will contract you, will feel heavy, will feel like too much, like you're wrong. And when I was going into like, oh, I got to plan content, or oh, I got to plan out my year, oh, I got to have all these goals, because I've been taught that also in psychology, like plan goals and all these things, and SMART goals. And I was like, but wait, why isn't this working? And this is where we kind of almost get into like gaslighting ourselves. I'm going to say that in like a loose way, because we've been taught one thing, yet our inner knowing, our higher self, or inner being, whatever you want to call it, is aware of something else, is aware of your truth. And anytime you feel crunchy, it's like you are not congruent with that truth. And so it's really easy then to go into doubt, so to speak, or choose doubt when your inner being's aware of something and you're seeing something outside of you that appears to work for somebody else, yet is not working for you. And then what do you have to do but make you wrong? And that's exactly what I was doing. And that's why I felt so uncomfortable, because I kept going into like, why isn't this working? I see it work for other people. Why isn't it working for me? What's wrong with me? Not what else is possible. What else could I choose here? Is this true for me? Right? I almost didn't even ask that because I was focused on the wrongness. So I kind of just started to pull back, and I felt this need to almost really return back to me and what do I know, and like not work with anyone for a second, because I felt like I had just been trying to tune into what everyone else was saying and follow that versus following my own awareness. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I teach folks to do, is to return back to themselves, yet I am not choosing it. I'm not choosing it. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wow, I'm trying to do consciousness, and yet I'm trying to do it to get it right. I'm trying to do it to get a result, not to just be me, because that would create the greatest. And so I just got so much information from doing that I would not have had I not chosen that program. So it's like when I went into it, I asked the question, will this create greater for me? And it was a yes. And so I thought, well, it's a yes because all of a sudden it's going to skyrocket my income and more followers and all those things. That was the conclusion I went to, right? That was like the expectation. And when that wasn't happening, I was like, wait a second, how is this creating greater for me? Wow, it's creating greater because I just got so clear on what I desire and how I desire to be in business. Now, I knew this from a cognitive level and had talked about it with my other kind of long-term mentor multiple times, and yet I just didn't get it until I had the embodied experience, until I walked through something. This is why we can really never tell someone what to do or what the right thing is to do, because we're coming at it from our own point of view. However, what if the person needs to go through that experience to really get the lesson? And to me, I required being in that container. I required spending that amount of money to just, wow, okay, no, this is what it is. Energetically, it's really me being me, which means I don't have reference points for how to do this. I can observe other people doing it, and what am I going to create, right? And it's really where choosing is what will give you more information. So what a lot of people do is we wait till like, well, I just need more awareness, or I need the download first. And it's like, yes, right? We need some kind of clarity of like, oh, this sounds interesting, or it has a little pop, right? We get a little bit of information. And the bulk of your information is going to come from you doing it, from you doing the thing, walking through it, being messy, looking at things that are uncomfortable, things that you've been avoiding, like coping mechanisms, reflexes, however you're showing up, because that is going to give you so much information. Because I literally thought, no, I'm letting go of judgment. This is what I teach. I'm getting out of judgment. I was like, wait, I am functioning from the most judgment here because I'm choosing this program in order to get business right, in order to be right, in order to be valuable because I got it right, in order to be successful so that I am worthy. And that's just been, kind of a pattern I've observed in my life and constantly seeking. And not the seeking part, but more all the certifications and all the trainings. And it's like, how many trainings can I get till I have something to offer? And it's like really just looking at, are you enough already? Would an infinite being need to prove themselves? No, they would just be, right? Your experience is something to offer. It's what can transform other people, your lived experience, your story, how it comes out of you. And so I'm at this place now where it's like, okay, then whatever that is, whatever needs to come out, that's what's coming out. And really letting go of the need to do it a certain way. So, wow, there was just like so much in that experience. And really, it's like, choose it, do it, get a ton of awareness in the choosing, right? More information. And now when I look at my offers, because I was, starting to go into with this previous program, really trying to simplify and just have a few main offers and take people through this thing. And I was like, wait, this is just feeling so contracted and so limiting in the sense of, maybe I don't always want to talk about trauma. Maybe I want to talk about something else, And so I was like, okay, now I have the awareness. I have the awareness from going through that program. I have the awareness from creating a membership. It's something that's going to continue to evolve. I mean, we're 4 or 5 months in, and I kept, initially going into I should, at least give it a fair shake or do 6 months to a year or whatever. And it's like, for what purpose? It's called the courage to choose. Would I be courageous to choose something different and let folks know, hey, this is what's happening. I'd love for you to keep coming. And if not, that's okay too, right? But be willing to honor what feels fun and expansive for me to create, because that's ultimately what's going to impact people the most, is when you're feeling excited, joyful for what you're creating, not because you should, right? Because the should is loaded with judgment. And then the judgment has you go into fight or flight mode, shuts down your access to the creative centers of your brain. That's literally why judgment is the killer of creation. So if you could take away anything from today, I would say entrepreneurship will facilitate a massive healing and transformational journey in you. So would you be willing to just allow that? Allow yourself to be messy in it and to choose, because ultimately you can keep waiting. Or what would it create to choose the thing you've been avoiding? Because is that the thing that will change everything for you? So until next time, I'll see you soon.